No Yankees gear. I'm the one wearing Yankees gear to the meeting,
Well,
dude.
I can go grab something if you need. I just don't have a lot. I don't have a lot.
You were the head coach of the Mobsters last year. For people that don't know you or
Yeah,
haven't met you yet, and you won the Marshals League, which was a huge accomplishment,
thank you.
and then went on to win the World Series, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, so just a clean sweep of probably one of the tougher, like, competitive leagues, summer leagues in the country for sure, as
Yeah,
far as day in and day out having to try and win ball games. And now you've taken a job with the New York Yankees.
yeah.
And what job did you take? What are you gonna be who are you gonna be working with? Kind of what give us some insight as to, what the next step in your life is gonna be like.
Yeah, so and I'm going to come back to the Yankees thing in 1 second, but let me jump into my team this summer really quick because I think it's worth saying.
Yeah.
I feel like just incredibly blessed to have the team that I had this summer. My players were great. They really gelled together well. They were people who wanted
Yeah.
to be around each other, and they played hard for me all the time. I really appreciated a lot of the players I was with. I'm still in contact with a lot of the players that I got to coach this summer. I still chat with them, and whether
Yep.
questions whether they're at their colleges now or whatever, I just have that ability to still talk with them, and it's so cool. I'm glad I could develop that relationship. So I feel blessed that I had the players that went out there and won the games. I did not win any games for our team this summer, right? They are the ones who went out there and they played hard. I probably helped our team and hurt our team just as much, equally both directions this summer.
You've been at Slick for the past few years, and a job. How did this happen?
Yeah, great question. Um, I have a friend who was in their organization,
Uh-huh.
and he'd been in kind of the hitting side of their organization for a long time. Very, very, very smart, very educated, and he talked to me a couple of times about maybe the possibility of this happening in the future. I didn't really think it would happen so soon, I guess, but maybe that possibility. So he ended up getting a job with another organization, and on his way out, kind of left my phone number with the people that they needed to
Oh.
start to rehire some kind of lower level minor league coaches so that they could
Hmm.
fill the gaps, right? Just fill the gaps of all the people that have been hired away or otherwise left the organization.
Yeah, I wonder and you probably know this. Is there a lot of turnover and guys leave and go to different positions to kind of keep trying to move up?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
heard. Yeah, I heard a number thrown out there as far as the turnover goes. I think it's fair to say, because I don't know the exact numbers. I think it's fair to say there is a decent amount of turnover. I think a lot of people internally, they want to stay with their organizations that they've been with
Mhm.
and stay loyal to them in a lot of ways. But I also think and I think it's appropriate. I don't think it's wrong. There's like a personal incentive to continue to move forward and want to do that as well and progress the career along. And so I think that's what often happens is a lot of teams will come in, whether it's the Yankees or any other organization, and they'll try to hire people away that they think are good products. So now shifting into the kind of Yankees conversation. So I'm going to be a minor league hitting coach for the Yankees, and that, of course, as we know, the minor leagues, there's so many more teams there than maybe people know about. There's so many different levels that people have to move up and down. This first year, in part because of my ability to speak Spanish, I'm going to be spending the majority of my time with their international players, actually in the Dominican Republic.
Awesome.
So I'll be out of the country most of the time this first year. Who knows if that'll continue forward in years in the future, or if I'll move back into to the United States for that time. But that's the role. It's a minor league hitting coach position.
You and you're taking the wife.
Actually, no. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot. So there's a couple reasons for that. My wife, she has a dance studio here, so she has a
Uh-huh.
lot of different things that she does
Yeah.
here. Tons of people that she teaches at
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 other dance studios as well. And she just makes a lot more money than I do. So, anyways,
I bet she does, because I have a daughter that dances, and she's
it'll run you
10,
crazy.
and it would be a new car,
Yep, it will
basically.
run you dry. It'll run you. So, anyways, So she's doing all that kind of stuff as well. I think the long-term goal is that she won't have to continue to do that. But certainly in the short term, we don't have kids, right? We don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll get there eventually, but not quite yet. And so because of that, it's a time in our lives where this is actually a possibility. I
yep.
don't think it would have been a possibility, 10 years from now, for example. But certainly right now, this is something that we can do. And so I'm going to be going out there. Now we'll have plenty of time to visit, and she'll come out a handful of times. I get to come back once during the season as well. We'll have a little break there in the middle. So there will be
Hmm.
times now, and this is not to say that it's not going to be hard because it's going to be shit,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but we both felt good about after talking about it a ton, after kind of um, just consulting with each other and making sure, like, hey, are we really making the best decision for ourselves? And we feel like we are.
But you're going to be working with minor league players, and
Yeah.
there's a league that happens over there. I mean, you said during the season, and then I'll get to come back. What is that?
Yeah. Yeah. So there is a full league that they take their international prospects and they all send them to the Dominican Republic. So whether it's people from the Dominican, of course, whether it's Puerto Rico, whether it's Venezuela, whether it's Colombia, they send all these different prospects that they sign year in and year out to this complex there in the Dominican, and then they go and they end up having an entire league there. So every organization has at least one team. The majority of organizations have two teams down there. Okay,
Mm,
so I will be working, the Yankees have two, and I'll be working with both of those.
wow. How big? Do you know how big are those rosters?
It's a great question. I'll learn more here in the next couple of days because the
Yeah,
international signing day was just yesterday. So things are
yeah,
kind
I
of,
saw that.
yeah.
Mhm.
My understanding is between the two teams, you're going to have, and these are rough numbers. I'm almost making these up as much as anything, but between the two teams, you're going to have roughly 30 to 35 hitters, and you're going to have probably at least that many on the pitching staff. I know far less about the pitching situation. So
Mhm.
I would imagine both roster because you got to account for injuries, you got to account for long seasons and everything like that. It's not like a major league roster where you can just pull somebody up when you need them. You need them all there. They're all going to be there and all participating at the same time.
Where where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years?
That's a great question,
I
and
mean,
and
this
it's
is
one, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and it's one I've thought a lot about as I've made this decision.
yeah.
I think while I was coaching at Salt Lake Community College, and I have to thank them so much for that opportunity. If I look at the kind of course of my life, I was still playing, 2 seasons ago, right? And
Hmm.
so, and at that time, I was studying finance. I thought I was going to go and do finance, and I got a job in finance, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that I really hated. I guess it's just I knew where I wanted to be. I knew that I wanted to be a part of baseball more than anything. So. I started getting involved in baseball with Salt Lake, and if you would have asked me that before I got this job, it's like, man, I just want to kind of have the chance to move up and get into college baseball and stay in college baseball and be a great college baseball coach. Um, but right now, obviously, having had that shifted in the next 3 to 5 years or 2 to 5 years, I I really see myself still being with the Yankees during that time. I don't really see myself getting pulled away because I think this is such a phenomenal opportunity.
I think the talent of the Marshalls players will be similar to what, you're going to see. That'll be interesting to see how big the gap is between the players that we have versus who shows up to spring training.
Right, right. I think you're right. The Marshalls players are really talented, and it's a really deep league. They're going to be, for example, they're going to be much more developed at this point in their lives and careers than a
Hmm.
lot of these Dominican kids. Some of these kids are going to have phenomenal talent, like talent that would be far superior even than some of the guys in our league. That being
Hmm.
said, it's a very raw and unpolished and undeveloped talent in a lot of cases. And that's a lot of what we have to teach them is we have to teach them even some of the basics of the game as well as some of the complexities of the game. So it's a long journey for I think a lot of those kids, but the ones that make it, I mean, my dad actually just sent me something the other day. The percentage of baseball players that are international is quite high, higher than it's ever
Hmm.
been. And not
Hmm.
only is it higher than it's ever been, the percentage of Dominican baseball players is the highest among any of the international countries. So it's interesting to see where a lot of these kids come from, and a lot of them came from the same place that I'll be hanging out.
what advice would you have for the incoming Marshals players, the 150 or so guys that are going to come in from all over the country and play baseball and kind of step into our system over the next 60 to 65 days once they get here?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say my recommendation is the opportunity to develop is not just the game day development. What I mean by that is I know the coaches that are around, the coaches that are there for weight stuff, the coaches that are there for defensive work in the mornings and for different hitting things. Those coaches are phenomenal. Some of them I got to play for. I mean, Mike Littlewood was my head coach when I was at BYU. And
Yeah.
so take advantage of the fact that there's this kind of incredible amount of knowledge that you're not having to even pay for that you get access to. Like go use those guys. Go use those guys that have been there, have done that, and work with them. They will make you better. You're going to head in the right direction. And those guys, in a lot of ways, will prepare you even better for what's going to be the day in and day out thing that you're going to feel at your Division 1 or Division 2 or even junior college levels. Those things will prepare you just as much as the games themselves will.
Fun. So you're going to see some dudes out there. Well, hopefully you can share that with us and we can follow you on Instagram and kind of, follow your journey and guys you're working with and what you're doing. That'd be great to
Yeah.
just be able to see that kind of stuff. So, well, thanks, Cole.